Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I really appreciate you guys for coming through. I know it's the day after Thanksgiving. A lot of you guys probably still got the sleep effect from eating such juicy, succulent turkey or crispy roasted turkey, depending on how you cooked your turkey. But you guys can let me know your experience of Thanksgiving in the comment section so I have something to read. I like reading your guys' comments, okay? And I'll let you guys know that I read your comment by hitting a heart, so you guys know that I loved your comment, which means that I read it. Okay, so as the title says, 10-year Android user tries iPhone iOS. First of all, look, let me kind of put all the negative people. Let me put something for you guys, because I know there's going to be someone that's going to say some stuff about what I said. First and foremost, understand this is my experience, and I wanted this experience to be a genuine experience. I didn't ask anyone that I knew who had an iPhone for help on how to use iOS and use an iPhone, because that would definitely negate and ruin my experience for it, which I'm trying to share in this video for those who are interested. Yes, I'm a long time Android user. So while you may think some of the things that I feel are frustrating for me, keep your comments to yourself, because it's my experience, not your experience. And just because I have a frustrating experience on a certain area of iOS doesn't mean that everyone's going to experience that. So again, what I say is my thoughts and my opinions is not gospel. Get that through your heads. And lastly, these are just phones. If you're going to argue with someone about over phones and get really messy with it, what do you gain out of it? Apple and Google is not going to come over and say, hey, we loved your comment on how you defended the iPhone against that pesky Android user. Here's a check for $50,000 for all your hard work arguing. Like, no, you ain't getting paid. So why waste your time? If you don't like what I have to say, then just click off the video and go away. You know, simple as that. Okay, so anyways, 10-year Android user switches over, but uses an iPhone and iOS. I still have my Pixel 3. It's still one of my daily drivers. I have Google Fi on my Pixel 3. I have Visible on my iPhone. So I'm not just putting a data-only SIM card and running data only. I'm actually using the full service, phone calls, text messages, and those things. And I have that on here with Visible. So, let me just say that shout out to the person who sold me this phone, and I'm going to send this linked video over to them so they can watch it for themselves to see where their iPhone 6s is going through. Because that's what I bought. I bought an iPhone 6s. I didn't go for anything new. I didn't want to spend a couple of $100s. Originally, Mike from Budget Tech Review said that he would let me try his iPhone 7. And so I reached out to him on Hangouts. I don't think he read my message or got it. That I was saying, hey, when you want to send that phone over so I could try it? Then I thought to myself, because he didn't respond to me, and then I thought to myself, like, well, what happens if I actually like the iPhone and iOS? I'm not going to want to give it back. I'm going to want to buy it so I can use it. So I was like, nah, he probably, uses the iPhone 7 as his backup device. So it is what it is. Let me look for an iPhone. So I went on OfferUp, right? And I'm looking through all different type of iPhones, and I'm like, okay, I remember people talking about that, after the 6S, iPhones didn't have headphone jacks. And I have a bunch of headphones I want to use. So I'm like, okay, let me go for a 6 or 6S. Yes, it's an older hardware, it has an older processing chip, right? But, Apple does, according to a lot of iSheep out there, Apple does pretty good at keeping their older hardware pretty much up to date and optimized. So I shouldn't really have a problem if I get an iPhone 6S. So I found one for $50, okay? And I'm like, holy jeebus, this thing is $50. I've seen other iPhone 6S's on OfferUp going for like $150, $200, for the storage capacity and all that other stuff, right? And I'm like, okay, I don't need one with a lot of storage capacity on it, because I'm not really gonna use it as my main daily driver. So I checked the info. This one is only a 16 gigabyte, so a very small amount of storage, but don't worry about it. It's not ruining the experience for me. And I'm like, okay, well, the person's selling for $50. Why? So I messaged a person that I was interested in buying the phone off of them. Had them turn the phone on to show me that it actually turns on and everything. And then I went to go pick it up, brought cash with me, got to see the phone, and I saw that the display was cracked. And I was like, oh, that's kind of sad. It's cracked. Like, oh, well, I didn't really want it to unlock, but okay. But yeah, so you guys can see it's slightly cracked in certain areas, but it doesn't run across the screen, which is good. And I can always get it fixed and replaced. So I'm like, I'm not even worried about that. So I'm like, okay. The person that was selling it to me, really good person, and I still appreciate all that she's done. But yeah, she was like, oh, it's slightly cracked here and there. I'm like, it's okay, it's totally fine. I'm still gonna buy it from you. The back is totally fine, no dents, no deep scratches or anything like that. So I'm good, you know? Plus, I tend to get a case because iPhones have so much cases. I'm gonna get a case for it and throw it on there, keep it protected after I fix the display. So, yeah. Let me start off by talking about setting up the iPhone, okay? Setting up the iPhone was a pain in the butt. I could set up an Android device brand new with a brand new Google account and get it pretty much set up in 15 minutes. Took me 32 minutes with the iPhone 6s, and I'm not including the amount of time it took to, you know, to update it afterwards from iOS 11 to iOS 13. But and some of it, you know, was some bug issues. Okay, so it's not like, you know, you're gonna have these exact issues if you set up an Apple account for the first time. But there was a lot of verification processes going on while setting up a new Apple ID, new password, PIN number on the device, setting up Touch ID, and then where I really experienced some issues was like I had to download the Visible app from the App Store, and I went into the App Store, and one of the things that irritated me was like full frontal, they wanted my debit card information. So I tried to see if there was a way to skip that and just get into the App Store, and I didn't find a way to do that. So that was probably me being, you know, unfamiliar with the App Store and iOS as far as real world usage. Because when I worked for Asurion, they have these simulations on the computer where you can play around with it as if you're holding the phone, but I still feel like that doesn't teach you per se. So I had to plug in my debit card information. That was a total bummer. Didn't like that. So I plugged in my debit card information, finally got in. When I didn't finally get in, this is where the bug happened. So then by doing that, then I clicked on to download the Visible app, and then it popped up that, you know, my Apple ID was not verified, which I swear I verified it because I went into my Gmail to verify that I am signing up for an Apple account with my Gmail account. So I went back in there, clicked verify, then went back, then clicked to get the Visible app. Then that window popped up again where it's, you know, it told me to sign in with my Apple ID. So I put in my Apple ID password because that was the only area, and it said password next to that area that you fill in. So I put in my password, it accepted it, it went through, and then it was doing the little buffering thing, and then this window popped up and said it wasn't verified, and it did that 5 times. It was so irritating, like, come on. But that was, you know, the luck of the draw for me. That's not going to be for every person who signs up for a new Apple account, okay? That's just what happened to me. Well, I finally beat the thing and got in and downloaded Visible, which was, you know, I got the Visible app signed in. So then now I need to set up this iPhone the way that I would want to use it. The Apple keyboard totally sucks in my opinion, okay? Sorry, Apple lovers. Apple keyboard just totally sucks. Not so much as its functionality. Its functionality is good. It does what a keyboard's supposed to do. You tap A, it posts A. You tap T, it posts T. It's how they configure the keyboard to be. Constantly having to switch between the main keyboard face, switching to a symbol face just to get a period, because I am OCD about grammar. So even when I type comments on YouTube and I don't capitalize something or whatever, I feel like a bonehead for not doing that. And I know people today don't really care about proper grammar and text messaging because they're trying to text really fast and get their message out to that other person who's going to receive it. But I'm still pretty big on grammar. So couldn't find the period. So I always felt weird just making a space and making a new sentence because I feel like it's a run-on sentence. So I downloaded the Gboard app, which has the period next to the spacebar on that one. But then, you know, I can't find a setting area to adjust the Gboard to have the number row above, you know, the top row. Like on Android, you can do that, right? You go into the settings of Gboard and you go to preferences, and then on there you're going to see like a toggle to turn on, you know, the number row being on top. And I couldn't find that on iOS and with the iOS version of Gboard. So yeah, in time, I'll figure that out. Don't tell me how to do it in the comment section of the video. If you're doing that right now, typing it, stop it. Let me figure this out on my own. That's the whole point of this series of videos. This is why I bought an iPhone, to do these series of videos so that you guys get a perspective of someone for the very first time using iOS and an iPhone. I don't want help. So please don't do that. Don't ruin it for me. So yeah, I'll find out. I'll figure out how to do that, how to customize the Gboard to my liking. But Gboard is working better than Apple Keyboard, so I'm not using the Apple Keyboard. Deleted a lot of apps that I don't use from iOS that are native to iOS, and brought in my Google apps like Drive, Hangouts, and whatnot. Because I really wanted to see if Hangouts was going to be so much better on iOS than it is on Android. A lot of people say it is, and I see one of the things that I see about Hangouts, why it's better on iOS than it is on Android, because Android, you require a companion app to be able to use the dialer. So if you want to, like for Google Fi, if I wanted to use Hangouts as my all-in-one, I have to download the Hangouts dialer, and then I go into settings in the main Hangouts app and turn on receive incoming calls from my Google Fi number and use Hangouts as my default SMS messenger. With iOS, it's already natively built in. One app, and it has all the tabs at the bottom. I think that's actually pretty cool. But other than that, it pretty much still feels like Hangouts on Android. Not a huge significant difference. Probably more well optimized. We'll get into that a little bit later. So yeah, I downloaded my Google apps, and I downloaded my non-Google apps like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, signed into all those, and everything's pretty much up and going right now so far. So yeah, pretty good. Played around with it just for a little while, and let's talk about the cameras, okay? Now, in no way am I going to be comparing the Pixel 3's cameras to the iPhone 6s's cameras. I'm actually going to compare my Pixel XL, my Pixel 1, versus the iPhone 6s cameras. But I noticed one thing though, is that with the cameras, I'm not able to find where you can change the aspect ratio from 4:8 to 16:9. That's a little bit annoying. Some photos I would like to get in 16:9, and yeah, it's just where is it at? That's the way I see it. So, but other than that, video quality with the iPhone 6s on iOS 13 is a lot better than the Pixel 3. As far as how it looks in the viewfinder, and like when you're moving, you just have that smooth transition of the camera capturing video footage as you're moving. Very stable, very smooth. I see why people are like, iPhones do great with videos, and I never doubted that. But to actually see it within my own eyes, it is. Slow-mo looked really amazing. But, the Pixel 3 and its video taking capabilities is not like you're shooting from a potato, but I do see why. And it makes sense. I mean, the Pixel devices have been known to have the best still shot photos. And then iPhones have been known to take the really, if not best, videos, which I intend to use this iPhone 6s as my camera going forward after I'm done with all these different videos I'm about to make on it. So yeah, that's where it's at with cameras. I'm actually doing a video where I'm going to be comparing the Pixel XL versus the iPhone 6s in still photo shots and video. That will come later on down the pike. I'll let you guys know on Twitter when I intend to do that. Battery life seems to be really weird. Okay, so like with Android, you don't get the best standby time, and when you're using the device, depending on how new it is, you get pretty decent usage, right? So with my Pixel 3, I get about 4 hours and 15 minutes of screen on time, and then it's down at like 10%. With the iPhone 6s, standby time is really good. I went an entire hour without using the iPhone 6s. It was in my pocket, but it was on. And it was at 100% when I left the house. I went to 2 different markets because we were late Thanksgiving shopping for the remaining items that we needed. And after about 58 minutes of not using it, I got into the iPhone because I had to send a text, and it was still at 100%. I was like, wow, that's cool. But then when I sent that text message, it dropped down 2%. And I was like, okay, well, I see there's a bubble number on my Facebook icon. I launched that, looked at Facebook, saw a couple of feeds that I missed and some likes and some comments. And when I got out of Facebook, I was probably on Facebook for like a good 5 minutes. When I got out of it, it was down to 94%. Okay, I watched 2 YouTube videos, and from 94%, it dropped down to 84%. So like literally 10% loss, okay? And each of those videos were about 7 minutes long, so about 14 minutes, and it dropped down 10%. So when you're using the iPhone, yes, I can see where people are like, battery life sucks on the iPhone 6s, because when you're using it, it goes down pretty fast. But standby time is immaculate. I gotta give it that. Yeah, so you know what? Within the first 24 hours of using it, let me tell you guys right now, I'm going to put this to bed right now. For all the people who sit and nitpick on iOS versus Android and try and look for things that are different, let me tell you guys are fools. Because there's not a huge difference. There was no like super heavy learning curve for me to work this phone. It's very similar to Android, very similar to Android. Yes, the back button on a certain application might be on the top left corner instead of you natively looking for a back button down here. And like for me to go back to the home screen, you know, obviously hitting the home button brings me all the way back there. If trying to find, you know, the recent apps used so I can clear it, you know, you have to like double push the home button quickly to get your, whatever they call it, your, you know, recent apps used or whatever. A little bit different, but it's not a major thing. And like I've watched for years people say this when, you know, first time Android user switches over to iOS, and, you know, iOS user switches over to Android for the first time, and they always talk about these great big differences. And you know what? You guys are lying, or you guys are just overly exaggerating. It's not even that big. It's not that big of a deal. The back button being up here is not, at least for me, it's not a big thing to be like, oh my gosh, I can't use this thing, or I can't use this thing. Like, no. It's so much like Android, and Android's so much like iOS. And I knew, and I had an idea of it coming into this, but like, yeah, now it's confirmed. So people shut up about that. It's not that big of a difference. It's not. Okay. Yes, there's some minor differences, but if you can't handle that, then I only have one word for you: lazy. Okay. Going up here as your back button on certain applications is not a deal breaker for me. Hitting the home button to get back to the home screen, not a big deal for me. Yeah, I've been planning out this video and whatnot, and it's still at 100%. Oh, well, you guys can't see it. Sorry, it's still at 100%. So yeah, standby time's really good. Okay, iMessage, the green bubble versus the blue bubble. Look, if you're complaining about the color of a bubble of a message, then you need help. You need help. It's not a big deal. Sure, I get it. With iMessage, messaging another iPhone user, you can do a little bit more within, you know, the messaging app. You can send a little bit more, you know, picture resolution qualities will be much better. I get it. Why? Because in Android, RCS is something that people are fighting for because they want it. They want to be able to send better resolution photos. They want to send, you know, bigger video files. And you can do that with iMessage, with the blue bubble. But it's just a color. It doesn't actually make a big deal. What if they never did that, right? Would it matter? It doesn't. So I'll tell you right now, at least for me, having the green bubble or the blue bubble is not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It is not a user experience hindrance. So, no, I am not going to agree with longtime iPhone users about having the blue bubble. You can go duck yourself with that one. The blue bubble is not a hindrance. Right now, it's fairly well. I'm still going to be messing around with it. Actually, it's going to stay in my pocket. I'll just be honest with you guys. I do intend to, at this point, to carry an iPhone in one pocket, an Android phone in another pocket. So I have both. For anything that comes down the woodwork with these things that, you know, if I have to do a test or whatever to see how a certain feature with iOS or with Android works, I have two phones that do it. Now, the iPhone 6S may not be what's in my pocket going forward. Maybe next year, maybe March, I might just opt to get an iPhone XR, something a little bit more modern. And then, then I'll just have one iPhone in my pocket, one Android device in my pocket. There are some things about iOS that people talk about that makes it so much great. I don't see what you guys are talking about. Sorry to say that. I see it for what it is, and it's a pretty solid operating system. It's pretty snappy and speedy, especially on an older piece of hardware with the older processing chip. It's, you know, pretty speedy, but nothing that, you know, I just think that people are just overly exaggerating and over glorifying things. The setup process was cumbersome and quite a bit annoying, but nonetheless, I felt like it was more secure because of how it is. But for those people who are like, well, of course it is because iOS is way more secure. Excuse me, that iOS is way more secure than Android. Yeah, iCloud gets hacked. People backdoor iPhones, so yeah, don't tell me that. But if you feel it is, you feel like it's super secure because of all the verifications and things like that it wants you to do just to even set up an Apple account. Jeez. Jeebus. And yeah, so I'm going to continue using it. I will give you guys my full thoughts and review after using the phone for close to a month. So by the end of December, there will be a full review video. I'm going to continue using the iPhone and giving it some fair amount of time of being my daily driver device throughout the day, and play around with it more. If it gets more updates from Apple, I will keep it up to date. So anything that, you know, is being fixed, bug patches or new feature add-on, I will have it so that way I can talk about it. So yes, I made the plunge, I made the step, and this was a necessary step for this channel, because for me to be a well-rounded tech reviewer, I have to have a great deal of insight on both sides. I can't be naive and stick to only Android only, you know. But if you guys are going to ask me right now, so Tito, well, what's your preferred one? Which one do you like more? I still like Android more. I'll make that clear. I still like Android more. But I'm giving iOS a fair shot. And it will stay in my pocket going forward. Thanks for checking out this video. I know it's pretty long. If you guys saw it, hashtag the word blasphemy, because yeah, 10-year Android user now using both Android and iOS. And some people will say it's blasphemy, I'm treasonous, and I should be shot. Like, I should deserve a treasoner's death. Some people say that, but it is what it is, guys. Thanks for checking out this video. Hashtag blasphemy to let me know you made it all the way through. Leave me your interesting thoughts and comments. Do not spoil my learning curve of iOS and learning how to do certain things on it. I want to figure that out for myself. Okay? I appreciate you guys' willingness to help me, but let me do this. And yeah, happy Thanksgiving again to everybody else. Love you guys very much. You guys be great. I'll talk to you on the next one. And as always, aloha. Android, Apple.